Hi, my name's Chris, and what I'm going to do today is provide you with a working definition of deconstruction. I'm the administrator of a rapidly growing Facebook group, a terrific group if you're interested and you're not in it. It's called the Deconstruction of Christianity. And as people have joined the group, I've had a number of members request that as the creator of the group, what is the working definition of deconstruction? So I'm going to provide you with that right now, and hopefully that'll give you kind of a context for our community, help you understand kind of where I'm coming from in creating the group. And this is my own definition. It's okay if you don't agree with it completely. But I'm just hoping it'll be helpful and that it'll help you understand where I'm coming from and kind of some context for the group. So the first question that comes to mind when we're talking about deconstruction from Christianity is, what expression of Christianity are we talking about? I created the group kind of with people like myself in mind. I grew up Southern Baptist. In my young adult, middle adult years, I was a member of the Evangelical Free Church of America. I got a Master's of Divinity from Presbyterian Church of America Seminary. So my background is in the fundamentalist evangelical part of Christianity. So this group is kind of coming from that perspective, and the current deconstruction movement is really populated by a large number of people with backgrounds like mine. But if you're coming from a Catholic background, an Orthodox background, if you're coming from Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, whatever, you're certainly welcome here, and you can certainly be in a deconstruction process from those groups as well. But I guess I'm just informing you, most of what you hear in this group is going to, and the things I would teach or talk about on my YouTube channel or my Facebook page are going to be related to coming out of an evangelical fundamentalist background. All right, so what does deconstruction usually involve? It usually involves a questioning of literalism, ethics and morality, history, theology, church practices, and experiences. I could speak for a long time on all those, but I'll just give you a few examples and run through them. It usually involves questioning of literalism. That is viewing the word, the Bible, as the perfect, inerrant word of God. That's often a starting place for deconstruction, and often people come to a new understanding of what the Bible is and how it functions in people's lives. Deconstruction often questions ethics and morality. Some of the things that, for example, that I questioned coming out of it was the fundamentalist evangelical views on sex, homosexuality, sexism, the roles of male and female. The background I came from was called complementarianism, where the man had a leadership role, the woman was submissive. And then there can be ethical questions in the Bible like slavery, genocide, things along that line. All of those things are things that I questioned. There can be historical questions that come to mind. Certainly if you're coming from a literal interpretation like of the book of Genesis, questions about seven-day creationism, Noah's Ark, the Tower of Babel. There could be questions about the miracles in the Old and New Testament. And there can be historical questions like the Exodus of the nation of Israel from Egypt. Did that actually occur? What is in the Old Testament is legendary, what actually historical. Same questions could be applied to the New Testament. Theology. Oh my goodness. There's so many things that you're going to deconstruct theology, concepts of God, concepts of Jesus, lots of theological questions, theories of atonement, practices. And there's so many church practices, but you might be deconstructing those and questioning those. And then finally, experiences I have on my list, in that we might feel like we were kind of brainwashed, or we were manipulated, or we were taken advantage of financially, or our time, or things like that. A lot of things that we can deconstruct in our experience from that background. Third, I want to talk about deconstruction as a process. And I would describe Christian deconstructing from each evangelical fundamental Christianity as a dynamic and unpredictable process. When I started, I really expected to kind of work through my list of questions and then kind of work my way back into some form of an evangelical type belief. That's not what happened, but that's what I expected when I started my deconstruction process. And it's been a multi-year process that I'm still in, that took me to changing some theological views within Christianity, like the role of women, the book of Genesis, things like that. Then I moved to a liberal form of Christianity. I was a member of a Lutheran church for a while. Then finally I reached a point where it was a big step where I no longer believed Jesus was divine. I did not believe that Jesus rose from the dead. So I was no longer believing Christian anymore. And then I went on to explore Michael Singer, Eckhart Tolle, really opened me up to meditation, to some more Western ways of thinking, or I guess Eastern ways of thinking. I started reading about Taoism, Buddhism, and have really benefited from that experience. I've read some things from recovery that have been very enlightening. So I've really opened up my spirituality in a lot of ways. Then deconstructing can be traumatic in many ways. It can be relationally traumatic, emotionally traumatic, and spiritually traumatic. Relationally, and that really many of us just don't fit in the evangelical church anymore in those circles. It strains and even breaks off friendships. And it can even, disrupt families and marriages and family relationships. Can be very difficult. Fortunately, my wife has been very understanding and supportive, but often it doesn't go that way. Emotionally, it's traumatic in that for so many of us, evangelical Christianity was foundational and central in defining our identity and who we are and what we live for and what we did, outside of work. And so having that all pulled out from under you, even though you're convinced it's the right thing to do, it's very difficult, very upsetting. And it's spiritually traumatic. All of a sudden, you're in an existential crisis of what is true, what is real. Is there a God? Is there a life after them? How do I have meaning and purpose? Where's my source of ethics and morality? So all that can be in an upheaval and can take a long time to work through. Very much a process. So my hope in creating this group is because it is so traumatic and so pervasive and so upsetting and creates so many questions, and it is such a dynamic process. For me, there's not a right answer to the deconstruction process. I want to create a place where people can be in a process, be discovering, be changing. And it needs to be a supportive environment because this is such an upsetting process. It's not, we can discuss things, but there's not going to be trolling and ranting and criticizing and insulting because we need this to be a place that is constructive and helpful in this very challenging process. Again, you don't have to agree with me on all these things. I'm just telling you kind of where I'm coming from and kind of the ideas behind the group. You might have additional ideas or things you want to share. Please put those in the comments. It could be a great source of discussion. All right. Thank you so much.